pretty interesting. This trader thinks that what we have just experienced is a head and shoulders bottom. And you could see that if you're looking at the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder, and how there's a trend line going downwards, right? It's textbook. This is exactly what a textbook bottom, head, and shoulders looks like. Exactly. So does that mean we're going to follow the textbook and regain tremendously afterwards, right? The only difference is that textbook is showing a course of a few months, 2 months, but what this is showing is just a few days. So that's the difference, but it does look pretty textbook. So if we do recover right back up to, let's say, 24,000, then we will know that that's exactly what happened. So I'm anxious to see if that happens. And then what else is there? Anything else for Bitcoin? Well, stuff like this, all the metrics still showing good things. Number of individuals or addresses holding 10 plus Bitcoins is at a 18-month high, continues to go up and up and up. Hopefully you guys have been taking advantage, DCing. I've been getting email in the comments, people are telling me, hey, I finally got to 1 Bitcoin. Congratulations, right? Make your next goal 10 Bitcoins. That's not easy. Very, very, very little people can hold 10 Bitcoin. I mean, just think about it, right? The number of addresses with 10 Bitcoin is only 150,000 out of 8 billion, all right? So you do the math. That's like 0.001%, right? And that 150,000 addresses, it's not 150,000 individuals. It's probably half, maybe even a third. So you think realistically, maybe on the planet Earth, there's only like 50,000 people that have 10 Bitcoins. Think about that. If there's only that, there's only 50,000. Think about how rare that is. And if you can achieve that, and I do believe a lot of people watching can achieve that, you're among the elite. You're at the upper echelon, not even 1%er club. You're in like the 0.001 club. So think about that. Now, the third largest time we've seen this with Bitcoin volume, that's the main topic. Well, I did see this come out, right? And I've seen this before, but, basically sometimes with all the information that's presented to us, with all the metrics, models, and indicators that we have, right? Sometimes you just got to look at the basics, okay? Use common sense and look at 2 plus 2. What does that equal? Does it equal 3 or 4, right? So basically what this guy is pointing out, Income Sharks, is you look at these sell volumes, right? These large candlesticks indicating extremely large sell volumes. And the last 2, right, they indicated bottoms during a correction or during some fearful time. For example, the end of 2020, not end of March of 2020, we saw a huge red candlestick, right? That was a major sell-off point when Bitcoin fell below 30,000. 30,000? Fell below 4,000. And then you could see back in 2021, we also had a very steep drop when Bitcoin fell down to about 28,000, right? You could see these large volumes, sell volumes, right? And we saw one not too long ago when Bitcoin hit that 17,000, right? So whenever you see these major sells, usually that means good things are going to follow because you had a mass amount of panic selling, a ton of people getting out, right? And usually when you see that happen, when there's blood covering up the streets, guess what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to be buying, right? But everyone else is selling. So that's usually, you just use some common sense and look at it that way, right? Now, obviously, things can change. You could argue, well, maybe there's another, sell-off. Maybe, right? But you look at history and you go all the way back to some of these previous bottoms and corrections. What happened, right? You had something that caused massive amount of selling, right? And then you would see a massive, red candlestick of selling. And then that's what you see, or red bar, I should say, right? And you see it, I mean, this is not, there's no arrow, but back in 2018, when we had that bottom down to 3,000, you also saw a huge sell-off too, right? So there's been many times where this is a good indicator of a bottom and good indicator of when to buy and good indicator of a reversal. That's all. That's all. Not 100%, but it's a pretty good one. Pretty good one. And, of course, a lot of whales, right, they use these kind of indicators and buy. So recently, these whales, anywhere between 100 to 10,000 Bitcoins. So maybe not all whales, but you have like dolphins and sharks and whales. I like to call them sea mammals, but really sea creatures. They're stacking up, right? They're definitely stacking up. And like I said, these guys are the ones that know you don't buy towards the bottom. I mean, you don't buy toward the top. You buy toward the bottom, right? When everyone is fearful and when blood is covering the streets. So there you go. It makes sense. What else is there? This is also very encouraging. 65% of all Bitcoin has not moved in a year. 65%? That's a huge amount. 65% of all Bitcoin has not moved in 1 year. That's very encouraging. And that's very positive if you think about it. And then lastly, as for cycles, this is interesting. Looking at some of the previous cycles, halving events that have occurred going to 2013, back to 2013, 2017, and 2021, right? You look at what has happened, there's usually like a bottom event, but there's usually a time, I guess according to Bitcoin Magazine, where there's a time where it's a good entry price, right? Good entry zone. That's a better way to put it. Even though during the entry zone, it could still go up and down, but generally speaking, that's like the good entry zone before you have a good move upwards. And if we're following the previous two halving events, we're in that zone right now, right? And within that zone, normally, you find that bottom. It may not be right at the beginning of the zone. It could be toward the beginning, somewhere toward the beginning or the middle, right? And then you kind of just DCA during this zone, you dollar cost average, load your bags, and then you wait. And then after you get out of the zone, what happens? Well, generally speaking, you have a pretty good run afterwards, right? So we couldn't be in that zone. A lot of people are looking at the next halving event, which is coming in 2024, so roughly a year and a half or so, right? So it marks that zone. So we could be right there. If you're looking to buy Bitcoin and crypto for the first time and you don't know where to get started, head over to CryptosRus.com and click on the best exchange guide. Within, you'll find a list of exchanges that I recommend and some that I use on a daily basis. If you are outside the US, I highly recommend looking at Binance.com first. They are the biggest exchange out there, supported in almost every single country. They have a fantastic fiat on-ramp, off-ramp system. They offer the most trading pairs and the lowest fees in the industry. You could also download a mobile app onto your Android and Apple device very easily. If you are in the US, I recommend taking a look at the sister company of Binance, Binance.us, which offers all of these things and more. So if you want to learn more, head over to CryptosRus.com or utilize the links in the description of this video.